Foot in, you put your right foot in, you put your left foot in, shake it all out. I don't think, is that how that goes? I don't think that's how that goes. What's going on, guys? This is Burrs. I want to talk to you today about the ultimate home defense rifle. What you gotta have is you have to have two different lights, secondary, thirdary, primary. And by all means, for God's sakes, camo that shit. Not really, just kidding. This is not a home defense rifle. But what we are going to talk today about is AR-15s, how to set one up for home defense, the way I have mine set up, and my recommendations and tips. Now, the first thing that I'm assuming that you have is a good rifle. I will always say that you need to buy one rifle or build one rifle rather than buying 3 or 4 mediocre rifles. Buy one that is going to get you through anything you can possibly think of and build from there. As far as the parts and accessories, don't just go out and buy the shitty parts. Wait a little bit, save up your money, get the good parts that are going to get you through tough situations and situations that you're going to depend your life on. Until you've depended your life on something, you don't realize how much really good parts are worth. That being said, let's talk about some of the specifics in regard to accessories. What are some of the accessories that I recommend you have on a home defense rifle, in this case an AR-15? Well, one of the safety rules and one of the gun rules is identifying your target. If it's nighttime, which by the FBI standards more than about 80% or more, gun shootings happen in low light, which means that a flashlight is going to be something that you're going to need. And there's tons of different ones out there. You know, you can even have a handheld one like this 4.7s right here. You have Inforce APLs. You have Inforce WMLs, you have the Streamlight ProTac Rail Mount 1 and 2, Streamlight TRL1 that was on, that I just threw on there to make it look absurd. Tons of different lights that are out there that work really well. You can check out places like Mr. Guns and Gear. He does tons of gear reviews to get a good idea of which one will work for you better. What I've found works for me is a Inforce WML right here on the top. And what that gives me the ability to do is I can get that good C-clamp. Having this up here on the ends, people might say it's going to get in the way of your optics and your backup sights if you have some. For me, it doesn't really do that. I can use the light, and I have no problem whatsoever with interference of the light between the optic and the backup sights I have on here. You can use a 45-degree mount, put it on the side. You could use a straight up one on the side. There's tons of different ways to mount a flashlight on your rifle. But given the fact that that is one of the primary safety rules, or one of the main safety rules, have a light on your home defense AR-15. So let's talk about optics. Do you need them? Are they a necessity or not? Short answer is no. You don't need them, they're not a necessity. If you have a flashlight and you have some iron sights, whether they're backup or they're on there permanently, once you illuminate, you are going to see that the threat, and you're gonna see with no problem whatsoever your sights. So, are they a necessity? Absolutely not. With that said, if you're gonna go just straight iron sights, you're gonna save some weight. I would go with some good ones. These are Magpul Pros. They're backup sight pros. They work very well. I don't have any problems. They're thin, they're lightweight, they work for my rifle. That being said, what would I recommend? I'd recommend an optic. And the reason that is because in a stressful situation, you need to be able to identify and then point and shoot. Just like a camera. You want to identify the target, and you can identify by having your light down here. You don't have to have your light up here. Go to a class, learn all the shit. But the fact of the matter is, once you've identified that threat, you want to be able to flip that gun up. And with a red dot, I find it much easier than with iron sights. How much easier? I don't know. A few tenths of a second quicker. Is it worth that? Possibly. But for me, it's the way I like to go with my setup. I recommend Aimpoint T1, T2 type setup. Micro dots, lightweight. They want to be very lightweight and tactile. They don't take up a lot of space, and they work. I've had this one on for over a year now. One battery. I haven't changed it. I leave it on a medium setting, and you know, when I have to use it, I use it. And when you buy different optics out there, you might have some that shut off after 15 hours or 15 minutes or whatever the fuck it is. You're gonna have different ones out there that are gonna shut off. You're gonna have different ones out there that are gonna go once they turn off. You don't have a quick button to go back to where you were. So what's the worst thing you want to do? Do you want to wake up in the middle of the night, you definitely know someone's in your house that's not supposed to be there, or someone's breaking down your door, or you're a rancher and you have drug smugglers and all the likes around you. They're causing you issues, a threat, and you want to wake up to that, and you have to get your optic to whatever desired brightness you want. I'd rather just pick it up and have it ready, which is what this is. Medium setting, it's always on, and it's going to be on for like 30,000 hours. So what I do is I try to every year replace the battery, and I'm guaranteed a year easily with an Aimpoint. The one thing that's out there now that people are moving to on the lower end, if you want to go the lower end, I don't recommend it, especially for a home defense rifle. But if you need to go to a lower end, spend 160, 180, you can get like a primary arms ADS. It has 50,000 hours of battery life, just like this T1, T2, pretty much identical. Obviously, it's not going to be the same construction or strength. It's going to get you by, but it's not going to put that warm, fuzzy feeling in your in your soul like a T1 by Aimpoint or T2 would. I actually have one in the mail. I'm going to be testing it out and seeing how it compares to a T1, T2. I've seen a lot of positive reviews. So if you're looking for something, you're not going to be in combat and the like, maybe you can get by the primary arms. But what I recommend, honestly, my dad actually did come to me and ask me this, and I said, Aimpoint T1, T2. He got something like a Baraska or whatever the hell that is, and I threw it out. I actually broke it on purpose. I didn't even... So, what do I recommend? Aimpoint T1, T2, or equivalent. There's lots of reviews out there. Like I said, Mr. Guns and Gear does tons of reviews. Check those out. He does tons of torture testing and the like. I don't have nearly as much optics as he does. That's for damn sure. The one thing I will say on your home defense gun, and this is something Aimpoint actually fixed with this T2, or they started doing. The sights that they have on here, the flip caps, on this Aimpoint are actually see-through. And why is that? That's because people would have those on there and something would go bump in the night, or they would go out on missions or whatever, and they would have their cap still on here, or their bikini straps or whatever. And you bring up your rifle when you need your rifle, and bam, you can't see shit because you have your cap on, or you have your bikini strap on there protecting it. The first thing I can tell you is there's a lot of times when I don't even have those caps on, and I'm at gun courses and stuff, and if you buy an Aimpoint EOTech, you don't really have to worry about that. If you buy something else with lesser quality glass and construction, you might have to, but I really haven't. On this one over here, it's my AK-74, I don't have any straps or bikini straps or anything on this one. I never have, never will, because when I pull it up, I want to be able to see that sight and use it. I don't want to have to be searching for it. So just keep that in mind when you're setting up your gun. Don't put the caps on, particularly if it's going to sit next to your bed. I mean, what's it protecting? You're protecting it from pillows? Like, don't get those fucking straps off. So let's move our way down. So now let's talk about ammunition for our AR-15. What do I recommend? What do I use? Well, the one that I use is Barnes Vortex ammunition. This is their TSX hollow point, 55 grain, 223 Remington. Being in an apartment, being in a house, walls, loved ones, you want something that is not going to penetrate through walls too easily. Penetrate the body and the such, but not walls. And this one's actually more an open tip match, like I have here with the Ultramax 75 grain. And this is also recommended for home protection. You got 75 grains. It's going to be a little bit slower projectile. Open tip match, going to expand upon hitting whatever it hits. But the thing you have to keep in mind is, a lot of people talk about it's going to go through the wall and hit someone or something you don't want it to. Number one, you should know your target, identify your target, and take out your target. And you should do it with precision. You shouldn't set yourself up for failure, in my opinion, by saying, if I miss, is it going to go through and hit someone? Well, if you thought about it, and you thought about, that person's standing right in front of my baby's room, and the crib's directly behind that person, I'm going to take that shot right away. You need to process through that stuff. Go to a course and all that stuff. Obviously, in the heat of the moment, shit's going to happen, and you might have to take a shot that is something you don't want to have to do. But in the grand scheme of things, you need to think about all the variables before you even get into some kind of okay corral thing in your house, and just use some common sense in case there is a scenario like that in your house. And as far as all the other stuff on this rifle, talking about like a stock, a grip, even my beloved grip stop, they're not necessities on a home defense rifle. Now granted, I might personally think that the grip stop is because I can grab a hold of my rifle and control it better and put it up against things like barriers and such and get a better angle on things. But in the grand scheme of things, is it a necessity? It's not. Necessity is identifying, targeting with either iron sights or an optic, and using a bullet that's going to take care of the threat. Now some people might want to go with a 14.5-inch barrel. Nothing against that whatsoever. You take about an inch off of your overall length of your rifle. And you know, this is a perfect example of 14.5 inches. So some people might go 14.5 inches for an at-home, you know, home defense rifle, or even smaller. Nothing against that, whatever works for you as far as barrel length goes. If you're going to use like a 1-5, like this Burris 1-5, I have it mounted on a Kinetic Development Group quick detach. This is their side lock. I just got this for Christmas. If you want to use something like that, it's fine. Just make sure that if you're using an optic like this, it has an etch reticle. That way, if the light goes out, which on this optic, this Burris, it continually goes out for me. I cannot depend on it, because either I bump it and it just moves a little bit, and then boom, the optic's on and it burns out. If you're using something like that, which you probably shouldn't, but if you are, make sure it has an etch reticle, so when you pull that light up, you still see your optic. You still see that reticle. So just the only recommendation, get an etch reticle if you have an optic. So as you can see, you don't need, you know, everything in a cappuccino maker on your rifle to have an at-home defense rifle. You just need to have a few things. Just remember these few things. Quality is paramount. You have to test out this stuff at the range. Particularly, I recommend everyone who has an AR-15 or any kind of gun for home defense to go to a low light class. You learn so much information. It's absurd when it comes to low light situations. I remember I went to Trident Fitness Tactical. Rich Graham went to his class, and it was a 2-day class. Nighttime, we actually went to a manufacturing warehouse of sorts, off-site, and they basically set the whole thing up, and you went through drills and stuff inside low light environments, inside of environments you didn't even know, and you died a lot of the time because you weren't, you know, used to things. You know, I remember the first time I ran through the drill that they set up. You're going through the drill and you're looking here, and Rich was standing up on top of something that was really, really high. I didn't look high. All I did was I kept on this plane. I didn't remember that, hey, there's a really high ceiling, someone could be here. I just went into that room or that warehouse or whatever. I was going through things and I wasn't looking up top. And he was right there the whole time. I would have been killed if it was like a super spy ninja person like he was acting to be. I probably would have been dead. So fortunately for me, I don't have these high ceilings, so we should be fine there. But it just gives you the perspective of things you don't know. But when you go to a class and you go through courses and stuff with people who do this day in and day out, they've been through either military training or what have you, you learn a lot of stuff. So I recommend, you know, low light classes to everyone who has a gun for home protection. So to wrap up ammunition, you know, what do you want? You want open tip match, which is what I recommend, or something that's like a hollow point open tip match, which is this Barnes Vortex. This is their TSX 55 grain. Also has like open tip match to it. That's definitely what I recommend. You're gonna spend a little bit more, but buy a bunch of it, test it out, make sure it cycles properly, make sure you can do all kinds of maneuvers with it. So if you go into a course, make sure you can shoot it upside down and hanging off a tree, holding on to an orangutan while you're swinging across the jungle. Make sure it works in every environment. You know, I could take an AK-74, a good working one, and use it for home defense, but real quickly, why would I not use this rifle in particular for home defense? 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't have a light. Identify. I could easily throw a light on here and it would perform exactly the same way. So the same principles I'm talking about here with an AR-15, they're going to transfer across all rifles. The last thing we're going to talk about is maintenance. Maintenance of your AR-15 or rifle in general that you use for home defense. A lot of people talk about how to set up rifles. You'll see tons of videos, lots of good info. How to set up your rifle for home defense, what ammo to pick. But what a lot of them don't talk about, because they're talking simply about setting one up, maintenance. You can set one up, you can use it, but if you don't maintain it, it might not be ready there for you when you need it. So the one thing I say, and one thing I do, I replace my light quarterly. How much is one CR123 battery, or even two if you have a different light? This takes one. How much does that cost me if I got to replace that 4 times a year? Not that much. but I know they got a fresh battery in there all the time. I replace this battery in my Optic once a year. It's gonna last like 3 years, but if I replace it once a year, I know indefinitely it's gonna be on. I make sure that my gun's clean and it's lubed properly, so when I need it, it works right. And the other thing I do in regards to maintenance is I make sure everything works properly. So, make sure the safety operates properly. I make sure it cycles right. I feel it out. I make sure that there's no cracks or anything on the bolt in different areas, and I inspect it. You do that all year round, you're gonna have a rifle that's gonna last you and be there for you when you need it in your time of need. So hopefully that helped you set up your AR-15 or set up an AR-15 for home defense. Just remember, buy quality. If you guys have some parts and some gear you found recently that have changed the game for you in terms of home defense or personal defense, go ahead and put it down there in the comments below, or better yet, make a video about it. And until next time, later. This is one of my home defense rifles, and I've had this T1, this is the new one, because it's a T2. What the fuck is it? T2, Aimpoint